Okay, welcome everyone. We're friends of 𝗙𝗶𝗴𝗺, and yeah, thanks for coming along to the managing files and folders conversation we're about to have. But just before we begin, I'm Walter, design leader at a small little startup called 𝗙𝗶𝗴𝗺. We make security software, and I also help co-organize some of the events we run here in Auckland.
And hi, I'm Emily, leader of Friends of 𝗙𝗶𝗴𝗺, and I'm going to present the enterprise scale of file managing stuff on Figma workspace. I'm working at ActionStep, and ActionStep is making a software for legal practice and legal accounting.
That's a good catch. I forgot to mention. Yeah, I'll be covering the startup side of things and how we do things quick and dirty.
Hey all, I'm Andrius. I'm from Smart Investing, and I'm going to try to cover a little bit of mid-size examples.
So, before we begin, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. So, if there's a fire, if the alarms start screaming out, walk with us, we'll take the emergency exits. Do not use the lifts. If you need to use the bathrooms, the men's bathroom is just over there, within iShop, just over there. And the women's bathroom is down the hall to the right. And just as a reminder, we are we're shooting the event with video and cameras, so yeah, just bear that in mind. If you'd like to not be in them, please let us know either at some point. So I'll hand off to Emily now, who will talk us through a couple of methodologies.
Very soon. Yeah. So actually, early this year, like in January, Andrius and myself had a little case study. So we decided to look into his company's file structure and folder structure, and wanted to make it tidy. So I looked at some methodologies, and I want to share like couple of methodologies we can apply to even our life. So 𝗙𝗏 is one of the methodology that how you can organize all sorts of your digital information. So 𝗙𝗏 is basically just categorizing all your information in 4 different parts. So project, the short-term effort, and what you are currently focusing on. Area is like a more longer term. So like in this case for product design world, I'll say like a quarter basis or like 2 quarters maybe. And resources is more like a references, like if you have some, let's say, icon files from the internet, or someone actually give you really good screenshot of the product, like all the research kind of stuff can go under resources. And archive is very obvious, just put everything into the folder that are inactive. Yeah, that's the idea. And to make it more structured, I suggested another methodology called 𝗀𝗎𝗴𝗀. So there is a guy called 𝗀𝗎𝗴𝗀 introduced this kind of decimal indexing structure. So again, it's quite similar. So when you want to sort your life matters, let's say life, and there's a finance and a health. So you can put some numbers like a 10th number basis. So for example, health can be just 10. So 10, 11, 12, 13, it goes like that. And finance can start from 20. So 20, 21, 22, it goes increase the number like that. And inside that each folder, you can have additional like indexing numbers. And he's actually recommend keeping it 2 layers, 2 depth only, otherwise it will be really bloated. So I suggested combining 𝗙𝗏 and 𝗀𝗎𝗴𝗀 for like from mid-sized company to enterprise model. That's the thing. And for startup, water.
Yeah, so for the organization of how we structure all our files, we operate on a version of the Spotify ways of working where if it's locked in, it's a spec. If you're just exploring around, playing around, it's a canvas. And if you're looking at like a user journey that might be a bit complex, you might put it in a storyline. And if you're looking at something really experimental, like I'll give you a real life example. We're working on a video game at the moment to take to a conference we're presenting at in a couple of days. We might put it in a playground. So.
Yeah, so we're gonna share our journey at multiple scales, and if you want to apply this idea to your real life work, I would recommend just take a screenshot of your Figma interface and just make a slide, and just have a group session with people either online or in person in the meeting room, and start categorizing it. So there is not only one way to make it like perfect or correct. So it's all about the team's consensus. So you can have a really good discussion within the team. Yeah. So let's do it.
Okay, so let's kick it. Yeah, let's kick it off.
You do.
Yep, we need to switch over.
Nice.
Okay, so how do people join this?
Actually, we wanted to invite everyone online, but let's just skip it and just move on to your.
Okay. Let's do it. Let's go over to talking about startups. I'm going to cover it from top to bottom. So I'm going to cover it at the organization level. We'll go to our folders and then files. Let's kick off with top level. Oop, let's remove all the.
Sensitive data?
Not the sensitive. We've already done that. All the onboarding things. I mean, it thinks it's my first time using Figma, which is, I mean, it's trying to be helpful. I'll give it credit for that. Okay, let's go through this. Cool. So I have what we're looking at here is a Figma organization. We have, the way I've structured it is we've got the playground, which is where all the ideas we haven't committed to live. For example, if I have a feature that mails our users a unicorn every time they do something good, it might live there. Or just all the wild, wacky ideas that we haven't agreed to build. In development are things that we have committed to. So let's say there's a contact form feature we're building. It lives there while it's being built. We don't really have the concept of, okay, it's done in Figma, I'm going to hand it off to the devs now. It lives there as a collaborative document until we're done. And at which point we kind of pack it away with all the accompanying documentation in the event that we need to review it again. So I'll quickly talk you through. Yeah, I forgot that I set this up earlier. We also have marketing collateral, so if we support the sales team or other teams with nicely designed material, lives there. And yeah, competitor research is where we, if we see something really interesting, we might write up some documentation and some rationale as to what we think about it. I don't think there's much to say about design systems. That's a whole kettle of fish that we can cover in another presentation. But yeah, I mean, this is how we structure our Figma and where all the projects live. Like one project we're working on now is a new website, and that's how we structure it. But let's carry on at the file level. The way I like to do it is year, month, and then whatever project you're working on is. So the thing about this is when you sort alphabetically, it sets it up so that you get the latest first, because I mean it's numeric, right? You can ascend, it goes ascending, descending. At the file level, I am heavily influenced by the elements model by 𝗙𝗶𝗴𝗺. You have visual design, interface design, interaction design, functional specifications, and user needs. We capture that with about, playground, and spec. So when I talk about all of those things, it really splits into two spaces, your problem validation and your solution validation. When I talk about problem validation, it's all the stuff that's like, what should we build? Should we do this thing? Let's map out this user flow. Let's talk about the fluffy stuff that users can't see. Or let's talk about the user research. In the playground, that's where we do our lo-fi wireframing. That's where we do the more tangible stuff, the solution validation. And once we've debated that internally or externally, we have the spec, which is what we've agreed to as a team. We're going to build, here's where we're going to stop, here's all the detail we'll commit to. We're going to make it this polished, and yeah, it's sort of the contract for your definition of done. But the thing is, it doesn't have to be, like when I talk about a structure like this, right? You don't have to be religious about it. For example, at Watchful, one of the first features I delivered was simplifying a login flow. There were a couple different login portals, so that we had 3 different ways you could log into the service, right? And there was a big login button on the website. That only went to one portal. It didn't take you to the other 2. And I proposed a way to simplify it. Bear in mind that there's no folders here, there's no elaborate structure. This was about 15 minutes from, I thought about it to we put it into production. And I think that's where your like wins can come from. Like I've talked about all the structure and all this flow, but I guess the disclaimer is don't let it stop you from delivering value. Like you don't have to do this for every single project you work on. Like the way I like to work is as much as you need. You don't need to go overkill. You don't need to add a 3-paragraph rationale for every little pixel that you nudge. And I can talk through a couple scenarios. Like one thing I'll do when I explore a new product or feature is I'll duplicate the little project template that we have. We might even sketch it out. And what I'll do is I'll take a photo of the idea or the wireframe, and we'll literally just annotate on Figma and iterate from there. Like we're not too precious about everything having 16 pixel padding. We're caring more about that than solving the problem. And yeah.
Muted. It's muted.
Oh, it's muted.
Yeah.
Oh, good catch. Testing. You good?
Yeah, it seems happy.
Okay. Looks like we had some technical difficulties. Please stand by while we try to fix this. But yeah, like you can even just copy in photos that you take from the physical environment that you're working in, and we find that to be pretty good for record keeping. And for example, if there was an idea we discussed 3 months ago, and we've cleared out the office and the notes are no longer there, we still have a record of it here. If we're polishing or iterating on existing projects, what I like to do is work right when I'm iterating and down when I have a new iteration. So I might work on a couple different variants of one flow here, one flow here. But I keep working right until I get a new idea, then I move down, like down and right, down and right, down and right. And you get your thoughts become a bit neater that way. I don't know about you guys, but I have let my Figma files get pretty hectic. And when I do this, it's often in tight partnership with my engineering team. What I might do is I might post a link to GitHub. We might play around with it on a preview branch or a staging environment, and we'll just keep iterating. Like the developers might take screenshots and do and mock it up with Microsoft Paint or whatever your favorite tool is, and we'll just use Figma as the repository for all the sketches and rough ideas and things that were on the drawing board. When we do agree to commit to it, we'll lock it in with the code, But until then, it's a bit like a rock band. And once we do test it, there's two things that we do. We either pull the data after we've deployed it, so we might release it to maybe 10% of our user base and see what the data says about usage and how people are interacting with that specific feature. I can't show you that here, unfortunately. Or we might rely on user testing, whether that be moderated or unmoderated. But the point being, we don't just rely on a single thing. We'll use whatever's at our disposal. Alternatively, when it comes to files, we might do a full hackathon where we do the high-level UX, so we'll do the user flows, we'll do the requirements, we'll do the lo-fi next to the developer planning. So they might be planning their architecture, and yeah, we'll pretty much work side by side so that we're kept in sync. And like, for example, let's say a designer adds a new data type. For example, you need to remember the user's birthday. If you have it side by side, it's a lot easier to reconcile. Oh no, we should probably store the birthday in the database. And then, yeah, it makes it a lot easier to go straight to hi-fi when you have all that stuff locked in. You don't have to rework it as often because you know what the data looks like, you know what the backend looks like, you know the developers know what the front end looks like, and there's less miscommunication because it's just there. You literally swipe left, swipe right in a FigJam. Yeah, I think that covers just about how we interact with files in Figma or as a startup. Yeah, probably take some questions later, and for now I'll hand off to Andrius. All good? Yeah. All right, let's do this. All right, let's hope the cable stays.
Hi guys, yeah, so just a quick intro before that. So I'm here probably just because my user case is quite good, and I really quite feel that because when I started in a company, it was in mid of massive rebrand, and then I joined for them to help that, and I kind of found everything as set up as it was, and from that came a little bit of my confusion and some kind of questions which I had, and which Emily helped me to probably solve at some level, but it's still an evolving process, and it still a little bit needs way more work than it is. So my case is a little bit different because we are quite medium-sized company, and we had like 3 brands in Figma, and all 3 brands was had some different foldering system in that, and each of them had a little bit confusion and more deep file system. So here you can see one of the biggest our project, which was a rebrand of website, and it's a little bit off scale, where you can see how much of the folders and how much of the, I would say, a little bit confusing naming and confusing file system we had. And just to understand a little bit, there's a couple of website design files and all other files, which some of them have files inside that, some of them it's just like simple one-time jobs. So that was a situation when I came, and it's a little bit, if you look in some of the files too, I don't know how much you see, but there was a little bit to how everything was in one layout in one of the folders, and then everything, like if you see here, all the website too is laid out in one of a big file, which makes sense, especially me, that I came a little bit from Photoshop and all that kind of a background. So for us it's a little bit kind of easier when you see everything in one space, but working more longer with that, it's kind of caused a lot of problems. Problems with IT, problems with people, problems with feedback, problems with different variations of different files. Because if you just start working on one of a file in one of a folder, which is for wider team, you have to update that in your design team folder. So it's a little bit really hard to keep up the versions and everything and keep up everything tidy. Everything moves really fast and a lot, and it just gets really confusing. So there, at that point where Emily came and kind of helped me with the system she proposed, and I think I really like the Johnny decimal system, and try to apply that. But again, like it's a little bit more complex, and I think Johnny decimal works really well when you have everything structured really in that way. But when I jumped in the middle of that, it's a little bit complicated to get that right. So that was a little bit of our work here, and a little bit of to see what I had in mind. So there's one wider team design file and other just design team file, which had pretty much same pages in it and pretty much similar of work in that. And that was the biggest confusion, I think. So the proposal was to do it a little bit in different system, and I think there was the bigger one proposal of how like folder tree and all that, different brands and different Figma slides and Figma Jam, which I didn't implicate. It's Figma Jam, kind of like, don't want to say that, but we're still using a lot of PowerPoint in the company, so it's a little bit not being used. But we moved to Johnny decimal system, which you can see here, and that was, I think, that was what is quite working for me, and that's that I could implicate in current foldering system. And so yeah, as you can see, it's just one brand, and after brand it does have different folders for different
Could you zoom in? Yeah.
oh, sorry.
Nice.
Yeah, so because in Figma we do more than just a website currently, and it's just so we have different folders for different topics, and that's kind of how it works now. And the biggest one, the website one, should have all these kind of different pages, and main difference is that I'm moving from everything in one page to separate pages and just more like structured and more organized way. So that's, you can see how it's proposed and how it's going, and it's a little bit more complex of Johnny decimal, and probably Emily gonna talk about that more.
Sure.
Yes, for me it's still a little bit too advanced, and we're not at this level, but that's the possibilities, and that's where we want to move.
Yep.
So to go through the changes we did, so that's a little bit more visual and maybe a little bit more easier to understand from where we come and where we're moving. So that's on the left side, how it was kind of structured when I came. So there's 3 brands, BU, and as you can see in the brands, it's a little bit single jobs or some kind of like, I don't know, some different topics even. And now I'm moving to having 3 brands, having Johnny decimal system on that. And the same, I'm trying to use have some connection between Figma, because Figma and our sharing disk. So we have quite a bit of information on sharing disk, and that's where team is usually looking for stuff, and Figma is more for designer and IT, and it's a little bit confusing and a little bit mixed up if I have stuff on the Figma and I can access that really easy, but other people can. So I'm trying to have some kind of system that I have folders, and if I export something or save something, I kind of have similar naming. So if it's like social stuff, which is here, yeah, so if it's social stuff, 1003, so I could have a folder similar 1003 social stuff, which I could find, and people, if they're looking, I could connect that with a Figma file, or people could find that in a folder system.
That's great.
And yeah, so that's the main website folder being changed from this to something more organized maybe, and it's still in progress. And as you can see, there's still a couple items which are kept and which probably needs to be archived and done, but that's moving forward. Yeah, and yeah, that's on the Figma file too. It's just moving from everything in one to some kind of like more organized way that we have some listing and we have some archive drafts or symbol updates. I'm probably gonna try to do something like Walter showed. It's quite cool with all the emojis, but probably not for corporate. Yeah, so one thing which I really liked from Emily and I took because I didn't knew it and I kind of like self-explained, but information and over notes or whatever, it's like really helpful and it kind of explains quite a bit and helps for people who just jumping on file and looking. So if you have this kind of stuff, it's really, for me, it's kind of something which was quite interesting and quite helped for the team to understand their UI. So I would recommend these ones. Yeah, and pretty much, yeah, that would be probably all from me. And my point would be, if you have a chance, probably start organizing and doing some kind of like naming structure in the beginning, because it's really hard to jump in the middle, and everything is way more complicated and messier in the middle. Yeah. So I'm gonna give now the word to an expert.
Oh wow. I need to click in because I need to use 2 hands. Before we start, I need to excuse me, everyone, because I haven't created fancy screenshots I just need your permission, Will. Like, can I just take action steps, business model, and the structure as an example?
For sure, yeah.
Amazing.
Hope it's not a best practice.
So yeah, so we're going to talk about the enterprise level, and because I do value every company's intellectual property, I don't want to use any example, like a real life example. So since we understand the context, like what is the folder, what is the Figma file and what's the page inside the file, so we can just imagine how things are going to be placed where. So when the company or business scales up at enterprise level, usually there are multiple squads and company has lots of business models. So communication becomes really complex and convoluted sometimes. And the worst case that I've heard or seen was 2 different squads were working on the same project and they didn't communicate. Amazing, right? So I think having effective communication and keeping the high level of efficiency is all about sustainability of running the enterprise design team or the production team. So I will create some sticky notes and shapes as I'm explaining. So cool. Hello. Wow. You're so
Interactive.
yeah. Wow. So action step. You're doing legal software. So there are mainly, I'll say, 4 areas. So practice. What am I typing? And legal accounting and integration. And how should I call it, insights, business insight.
Yeah, confusingly we call that area enterprise, but
Okay.
yeah.
I'll just say BI, but
Yep.
enterprise.
Yeah, encompasses search and stuff.
Right. Yeah, so it provides lots of insights based on the data we like analyze. So very high level and most valuable thing for the big companies like big law firms. So obviously when companies started having these type of business models, like there are usually multiple squads. So when we come to the Figma interface level, I will suggest either group the folders by the squads or by the products. But my personal preference is like grouping by products, because like in some really big companies, like let's say we have 8 squads, then some squads are working on the same business model. So sometimes files can be overlooked or duplicated, or like some are missing in somewhere, others are like, just get lost. So I will say each business model can be a folder. But in this case, when I apply the journey decimal methodology, and I will say, okay, this is my current project, or some other squad's current project. So 10, so it can go like this, or like 10, 20, 30, 40. Sorry, let me correct this. I'll just put everything in 10. And for example, the integration part is like archive, which means like we shipped it. Then I will just change the index number to be 40, which is like the 4th folder, archive. So applying the para structure again. And let's say this is just a folder. So and maybe I can suggest something different. Because even in integration business model, there can be a lot of features, right? So it can't be only one folder. So in that case, I will say 40, just apply the folder number and go 0, 1. And integration, like, I don't know, I'm making things up, so.
0 for
Yeah, good, thank you, 0. So it can be a folder, and there can be some files inside the folder, so file. But in this case, my recommendation is like focusing on the feature. So for example, bookkeeping, let's say. Bookkeeping, maybe double K. So when we look into one Figma file, there can be lots of pages, right? Let's say something. In this case, like, okay, one squad who are working for integration, and their current task is, I want to be a little bit precise. So currently working on 0 integration and specifically bookkeeping area. So in that case, I will create many pages per touch point. Can be, user can be coming into the bookkeeping page from a certain link of their main system, or it can be some email. So when we just send out the email to the customers that, hey, new feature is released and please join, it can be another touch point. And some promotional banner, social media. So I want to reflect all our normal like day-to-day user experience job. So find all touch points and create the single page and the file. And then within that page, I will utilize the feature called section. So I will iterate the design over and over and create the section. That's what I'm gonna do. And once this file is shipped, then I will just move that file into the archive folder and just edit the index from 10 to 40. Then when you guys communicate across multiple squares, then maybe one of your product manager asks, yeah, where's the file? Oh, it's under 40, folder 40. They can find out. And when you are working on a single file and there are multiple pages, I would suggest like what Andrius quickly showed you, like create a divider and put lots of ideas and local components, like you might want to suggest to be a global standard of the design system. So it can be just captured on your local level and utilize it for the group discussion later. And that's about the product level, but there is another fun thing, design system. I read a little bit. So I will, yeah, let me just think of another example. Okay, at enterprise company, there are lots of design systems. Like it's not always only one design system. What I mean by that is like there will be foundational component, so which is very global, and there could be platform specified design system because the patterns are different. So the way browser works, because users usually use a mouse pointer, so the targeting point is different, so sizing can be varied to be browser friendly. And when it goes to mobile, then there should be mobile specific user patterns, and when it's standardized and documented, it can be treated as another like satellite design system. So in that area, there can be hybrid model, like the developers, if the developers use a Flutter, so support 2 different platforms or operation system like Android and iOS, they're called hybrid. So either having hybrid mobile friendly design system or one specific operation system. So it can be linked and structured in that way, and each product, so I'll say at the file level within the para folder, you can move things around or create more pages in the file. So this is the idea and the experience that I feel the optimal way, but like I suggested in the beginning, just take a screenshot and have a group discussion and come up with some consensus for your team specific. So even for pages, you can number things, and when it becomes a pattern, then people can easily find the specific page. For example, like maybe number 1 is always like a draft, and 2 is like ready to review, and 3 is like in development, and 4 is like archival, something like that. I think that's the enterprise thing. Sorry, my board is not that colorful and pretty, or just rectangulars. So.
Sweet. Let's move on to Q&A. Do we have any questions, offline or offline or online?
Yeah.
Sorry, I've got one question. Because we kind of work in almost like an enterprise system, but it's just for a single product. But like you said, it's got to have like multiple squads. And the one thing that we struggle with is like once the product goes live, there's like iterations that come, like you do a phased approach towards an initiative and stuff. So what would be your recommendation to manage those file system, because it can be like, you know, a gap of like a 6 months or a year as well sometimes.
One thing I like to do is just always like, well, let's say you lock in a spec with your squad, right?
Yep.
Always attaching the date.
Yeah.
Like last updated, like
Yeah.
often, like oftentimes you'll get a lot of stuff that makes it into the code, well, that makes it into the final experience that you don't really account for the wireframes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, another thing I can think of is like if I use journey decimal approach, like create the second number like 11 or 12. So maybe your number 10 folder or file is already archived in the number 40 folder. Or create like a 40 dot, okay, again, like you create a new file called like 10.11 or something, like next version. Then when you ship it, then move that file to archive folder, so it becomes 40.11, something like that.
Okay. And like, you know, from a design system perspective, one thing that we struggle with is having your research part of things also sitting in that file, because sometimes it's kind of makes it more sense to refer it again and again, and you know, switching on tabs sometimes becomes painful. So what we struggle is like, you know, because we've got so much of research, it's difficult to, you know, kind of group them.
Wow. So my instinct is like, I would like to recommend a resource folder. Yeah, so maybe I will put many files under resource folder and maybe name it, like, for example, if you guys are working on the model pop-up button layout, then I'll create a new file like 30.1 pop-up and put all sorts of research, and you can have lots of pages in that file, so you can put ideas there.
Cool, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Got a question from online here. Question for Emily: how did you discover the decimal system?
I enjoy just explore like ideas and methodologies. I watch a lot of YouTube. That's the thing.
Yeah, question on the decimal system. Is your design team kind of leading the way in terms of like IDing the different features and ideas, or have you got like other product teams as well, or are you?
I think we all do it together. Like we are in the stage of tidying up and scale up to be like a full like scale of enterprise, and like sometimes even product managers jump into the Figma board and share the idea, and it can be captured on our like task management system, and those can be pulled into the Figma file. So I think definitely we will have lots of benefits when we index things properly.
Yeah. So this is Emily's third week, and so she's coming to terms with, I guess, 4 years of my just-in-time designs on things. It's like almost the opposite of what's either any of you have shown. It's probably what we have right now, although we do have an archive file, so pretty. But I use an emoji for that, so
I know.
no one with the emoji.
Emoji, even though we are enterprise.
I was like so proud of myself when I found out, oh, you can put emojis in there.
And so do you champion that system and other teams follow, or do they somehow sync up their way of?
I think like in my previous experience, I was seeing some changes. Like we have much less messages about asking where the file is. So yeah, I think I was feeling it was championing.
We've got almost the exact same problem, and like, we have Notion, Miro, Figma, and obviously there's GitHub, and DevOps or Jira, folks using that. But I think these problems are parallel in many systems that are all kind of moving along at the same kind of along with the product getting built. Yeah, so.
Just one more tool will fix it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've got Asana now as well. So. Yeah, I could see how just having some kind of just universal way of organizing would be quite useful, you know, across everything. Just a note on, like you mentioned, product centric organizing versus squad. Yeah, I think we definitely have had. Yeah, in my experience, what you tend to have is squads come up with like one of their ceremonies and their form is they come up with pretty stupid names, generally, or pretty names that were funny at the time or whatever. But they generally, people learn them, but almost always you end up with like executive level people saying, what the hell do 𝗙𝗶𝗴𝗺 API work on? They're the documents team, so it's like people intrinsically are thinking about it in a product or feature centric view, even though they've got some like cute or funny squad name, and that's the issue, is those squad names are not immutable as well. Squads form and dissolve and stuff, and then 4 years later you go, what was this? Who was that squad? Like, what was that? Oh, that's right, it's a Stranger Things reference. Probably was funny like in 2019.
Like extra cognitive load.
Exactly, yeah, you got to almost understand what the cultural reference was from 5 years ago to understand what that design is. So yeah, I definitely think that's an issue with our current, ActionStep's current Figma thing is it's very squad centric, and the squads has changed a lot.
And actually, one of my previous workplace had almost sometimes 8 squads, sometimes over 11. But it doesn't mean we have 11 products. People sometimes rotate, the squad rotates around the product. So when you don't have context, then it gets a lot messier. So that's the one reason I wanted to categorize things by feature. But another thing is we can focus on job to be done. Doesn't matter who do it, but do we ship it or not? And usually business model and features are quite static, but squads are quite dynamic.
Yeah, for sure. And the focus can change as well.
Yeah.
I got a question as well. Do you have some sort of live files, so pretty much a Figma file that's capturing what's really live at the moment? Because thinking into the project-based files, potentially the way you named it, that feature and then that file name, maybe me coming in, I would never call it like that, or I don't know that you call it like that. So how, someone already worked on this page, I'm just looking at changing a tiny thing, but potentially I have to rebuild the whole page because I don't know where that live Figma file is. So is there a lot, how to deal with that issue?
Yeah, so in that case, friction is inevitable. So I'll just leave it, close my eyes, but just keep it like that. But at some point, definitely, group session is required. So you guys have to agree on a certain or one name to call a thing. Then I'll just merge it. Yeah. Or another trick is leave that secondary file, but pull all that screen designs into the primary file, and in that secondary file, just leave a link.
On a more operational level, there are a couple plugins out there that will convert a web page into a Figma file. So you can pull out all your tokens that way as well. But it is a little bit, but some of them can be a bit buggy though, so it won't do everything for you. But it does give you a starting point, and
That's
at least
true,
it's reflective of reality. It's what's out there with customers right now, as opposed to here's my idealized version.
Cool, thank you.
So kind of just building on that, would you use branching, like the Figma branching from the enterprise level, or how would you use that?
That's for organization plan, right? Which is
That's for moving them into once they're in development and then reviewing it.
Yeah, so in terms of file location change, I will keep it, but branching is more like a revision of the design. I can keep it. So that's what ActionStep is currently doing. So we're testing that idea. So everyone creates their own playground, like what Walter suggested. So it can be just subset of our para and joint decimal model.
Yeah.
I just hope they don't make the same mistakes their predecessors did. I don't know if anyone around the room was around for the Sketch era with Abstract, but so for context, Abstract was a tool that gave you branches, forking, merging, but with artboards and wireframes. One of the biggest issues there was the designs would often get lost in a branch because you can't easily search. So just be warned.
Yeah. If it's not merged, not searchable, then people think, oh yeah, we need to create a new design, but someone already did it.
Or is it?
Communication.
Looks like it's gone into screensaver mode.
We have another question online here. What guidelines do you set for your teams when it comes to file cleanup and maintenance?
Oh, it can be. Wow, like if I try to be really anal, I will even clean up the output names. So like developers, if there's a developer, like there are naming conventions, like for example, the first word should be a verbal form and the second one should be noun or something like that. And there are lots of notations like case sensitive, like headless camel case, kebab case, snake case. So I can be like that, but I don't want to torture my lovely teammates.
Bulk rename's pretty good for that.
Oh yeah, bulk, yeah. So when you just select everything and rename layer all together, then it can be. But again, based on consensus.
I mean, to be fair though, we are getting vibe designing tools soon. I'm not sure if many people have seen, but there's a new feature that gives you like a prompt window within Figma itself, and I think it's capable of renaming files. So yeah, I guess let's watch that space.
Oh, one more thing is like if you are looking for the answer in terms of the timeline, then maybe I would say every quarter, end of the quarter or beginning of the quarter can be. Yeah. And Andrius, do you have any idea? No. You agree? Just agree.
Question for Andrius. Got multiple brands that you're working with. Where do design systems fit into that kind of?
Oh, great question. Not all the brands have design systems. And yeah, it's still, because the branding was in the middle and it came with a design system, it's still built in. So it's still working in process, but it's been sitting in Figma, not entirely done because we have similar problem that we just updating everything on the go. So a lot of the stuff kind of hard to build design system around when it's still with some of the elements being developed and changing. So it's still developing and still working, still sitting in Figma, and it's a massive, I would say probably it's a massive job which kind of needs time at itself, and it's been a little bit left aside now, which is unfortunate, but it's kind of like stuff needs to get done.
And would you see your design systems being like a design system for each brand, or would it be a design system across the brands?
Probably for each brand, and we're probably just thinking about the bigger brand. The smaller ones doesn't need, because some of them it's just website based, and for the bigger one brand we have like more upcoming, which probably some app, some systems and some websites too related, so they're gonna be needed some design system, and I can see how that gonna help in the long run. But for smallest one, it's just like websites, and they all kind of sitting on the same branch of just in different branding. So these ones probably doesn't need so much because that doesn't change so much, and they don't have such a big scope. So yeah.
If I can add one more thing here.
Yes.
Yeah, so when we were doing the case study, Andrius explained the situation. So the company was acquiring small companies, and there was existing brand guidelines. So just continue some of the existing guidelines and slowly merging in. That's the plan. So that's what Action Step is actually currently doing as well. So acquiring other companies, but want to provide some smooth merging phases. That's why, like in some cases, we need to run 2 different or 3 or 4 different design guidelines. But that's very temporary thing. But the roadmap is like unifying all those design systems at some point.
I can add that some of the brands even gonna be unified, so it's a little bit of that, and some of them won't be. So some of them won't have anything, and some of them just gonna merge in one. Oh, yeah, time is up.
Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you. Any more questions?
Anything online?
No.
Sweet.
We just made it on time. Not even 1 extra minute.
Awesome. Yeah, if there's no further questions, yeah, thank you everyone for coming, and we hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, and if you guys want to share some like feedbacks about the session, feel free to do it. And there might be some another email sent out, yeah, after the event. So.
Awesome.
Do you guys use Instagram?
Oh,
Yeah?
Yeah.
We have a new Instagram. So it's all lowercase, FOF_Auckland. Please follow us. We'll put some photos and more posts on there. It'll be more casual than the LinkedIn.
yeah. So Lydia is our social media coordinator person. So she created Instagram page. Yay!
Sweet.
Yeah,
Nice.
and there are more volunteers in this group. So Mina, who greeted everyone at the lobby.
I'm glad y'all beat it up.
And Shihan and Harish. Actually, these guys came from Hamilton to attend this event.
No way.
Very passionate. Yeah, and that's us.
Yeah.
Emily, Walter, co-organizer. So if you guys want to join the gang, yeah, we're welcome.
And Connor, special guest.
Oh yeah, special guest Connor from Watchful.
Yeah.
So thank you for all operation.
Very professional.
Fantastic. I think that's us.
Yeah, thanks for coming, everyone.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you.